All right, we are back with another stand-up comedy special review. This time, Chris Distefano, Speshy Weshy on Netflix. Now, look, guys, if you're not already a Chris Distefano fan, Chris's humor is very unique. So, from the beginning, right, where we would usually criticize a comedian for being super excited and having different... That's Chris's humor. So the breaks in his voice that you're hearing, that's a part of his humor, and it's some of my favorite parts of his humor, especially throughout this special. Okay, we have to talk about the obvious elephant in the room. If you are a fan of the Comedy World podcast, this special made me dislike Brendan Schaub's Gringo Poppy special a lot. Because, one, I followed both of those comedians. Brendan had Chris on his podcasts and stuff as this was going on. And you saw how Brendan's style changed to meet Chris's, where it became all about talking about his Latina wife, which now Chris does it in a way where he's poking fun and he's obviously playing to stereotypes, but he's doing it in a playful jab type way, and he's doing it from a scope of observation and experience that felt lacking in Gringo Poppy. I think at the last second, Chris had to have changed the special name to Speshy Weshy because Chris is known to be the guy that's constantly calling himself Poppy and stuff like that. That's Chris's thing. So again, it's hard to imagine that somehow Chris isn't upset at the fact that he had to alter his comedy. Chris just did a interview with Brendan Schaub on his podcast where in the beginning he plays all the parts of his special where he's talking about his Latina wife, and it's kind of proving to the audience, I think, of the podcast community, like, hey, this is my style, this is me that you guys just saw in an attempt over here. Now come see it on Netflix. And I do regret my speaking saying that Brendan's special looked like a Netflix or Showtime special. It didn't. After going back watching it a few times, he was completely whitewashed, which like Joe List and his was just whitewashed. So that's kind of the YouTube thing where Chris's lighting, sound was very good. There was a lot of cuts. They did produce it themselves. Netflix didn't produce this one. Chris still did, but this one was very well produced. Chris is very funny. It was a 36-minute special. And going in, the first joke kind of misses. And I think that's fine because with Chris, he takes a second to kind of warm up. Even when he's on comedy podcasts, when you see him, he takes a second to feel out the room because Chris's comedy can be very extreme. He talks very wild, and it's very politically incorrect a lot of the times. So you have to be able to take this ride with Chris. And if you're a fan of his, which the reason to put it on Netflix is to get fans who are not already fans of his and bring them to the podcast on YouTube and stuff like that, and the Patreon, which he talks about all the time. He's giving you an insight to his life. If you've seen Chris Distefano's earlier specials, like 36 and 38 size waist, he's more raw, younger, I'll say immature Chris, where he's letting things fly more, where if you do that in today's day and age, it can come across in the wrong way, where he talks about cancel culture and how it's always white women particularly that are out there fighting the social justice issues, which again, he's bringing observation to something that's kind of what I believe a common belief now in today's day and age. And he's bringing it all together. He even touched on his family life at home during COVID, like Schaub did. Only this time, again, he didn't just go, oh, our family fucking sucks and we're a terrible mess. He goes like, it was a struggle. And he breaks down certain instances, like his daughter's attitude and the way she replicates her mom and stuff like that are funny. And he's just expressing what he's seeing in his everyday life. So again, you can connect to him in that. And again, I don't know how much experience the viewer of this video is now having with Latina women, but if you've ever been around some of them, you can laugh at the commonalities of what he's saying, right? Because now, yes, you're laughing at how extreme some of it is, but you also, if you watch Chris's podcast, you know him and his wife's relationship, and she is very animated and stuff like that, and he's got TT Jerry and stuff like that. So Chris's world is very chaotic. His name is, Chrissy Chaos. That's the name of his podcast, and it's very fitting. So Chris is not hiding who he is. at any part of this. He's coming at you raw, vulnerable. He starts off by saying, at parts of the joke, and I never try to give jokes away, but he starts off by saying he had his 2 Latina kids by design because he saw being white is like almost being illegal in 2025. And it's like, okay, yes, we've heard that premise before. I think Bill Burr had a segment once before where he thought, being white was going to be a crime soon. We're finding a lot of commonalities in these new comedians. I don't know how I forgot to mention the jokes that were so common in Schaub's special of Gringo Papi to George Lopez's special, especially the end part where he was talking about his family said they were all going to fit in a car. I'm pretty sure that's how George Lopez ended American Chicano, where he was talking about his family was going to go to a Dodgers game, and his mother-in-law was saying, no, we'll fit, even if we have to. I thought he said hang on to the back or something, and Schaub said he watched people hang on to the spoiler. So that was tough. Chris did not flirt with any of the lines of stealing jokes, but again, over time, watching people mature, saying things like my wife and me having struggles and expressing those, they're going to get a little blurred, and especially when you're doing observational comedy, we can't be so quick to say that was a stolen joke. The premises of all Chris's jokes are observational. So he is being truthful to what he sees. So there's that. This comedy special was funny. Chris is funny. Earlier in Chris's career, and still some today, I take Chris in small doses. I can't do a whole Chris Chaos podcast. It's just too much for me all at one time. But I like to see him on other people's podcasts. I like it when he's dialoguing with other people and not just kind of ranting in the world of Chris Chaos. But this was a very funny 36 minutes. It hits a really good point when he's talking about the show he was on and how much disdain he had for that and working with his co-host on that. That was one of the funniest parts of the special, I think. He had a banger about his co-host there in the middle that was kind of a comeback to what he had said earlier in the special. This was a special. This was a good special. It represented Chris well. I hope you guys all go and support Chris on everything he's doing on his YouTube. Go watch it on Netflix. Show him support there because that is important. Now, when I opened Netflix, he was the first thing that popped up. And then even if I went down, he was right there again. So they are promoting this special. They're betting on Chrissy D, and I'm happy to see it. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll see you in the next one.